Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode, I think this is 18 of Drop the Clutch now. Wow, we're getting close to 20 episodes already. That went fast. Tonight, I'm joined by Amy, who's a guest co-host because Dan couldn't join me last minute, and our guest this week, Mr. Tom Bacon. Hi, Tom. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi both. Thanks for having me on. It's been nice to be asked to come on and jump back into the speedway world. So thanks for having me.
Amy, do you want to start us off with some questions? Have you got any? Or do you want me to go?
You can start them off.
Okay, well, pretty like regular questions. So I'll start at what or who got you into speedway in the first place, Tom?
So it's a bit of a different story for me, really. So my dad used to be a speedway rider back way before I was born. And then when he gave it up, he had nothing to do with it, but thankfully my mom was still into it, and that's how they met. And she used to take me to watch at Coventry. So I was always a massive speedway fan before I actually even got to have a go at speedway. So I didn't have a go on a speedway bike till I was 18, maybe 19 actually, when I first had a go. So I wasn't like the usual mold of having a go when you're just like when you can walk. I rode a bit of motocross when I was younger, but yeah, speedway, I was just a massive fan. So it was always a dream. And then once I was able to have a go, there was like sort of no looking back from there, really.
Yeah, I bet your dad was happy with that, wasn't he? He was like, oh no, now Tom's.
Yeah, look, it's massive for families as well. I don't think people realise. So my dad, having done it, he knew exactly what it took to get into speedway, and like it's not as glamorous sometimes as what it looks like from the sidelines. So like when I used to go and watch speedway, watch the boys go and do a practice start down the back straight at Coventry, and I'm like, wow, they're at work now. How cool is that? But actually, that's the easy bit, and it's everything that goes with it that's the hard bit, and the injuries and the training and the travel. And he'd seen all of that, so I think that's why he tried to keep me away from it. And also, it's not the best paid job in the world, so I went down the sort of education route. And then when I did get into it, look, he was a major help. He backed me all the time, and like it's so important to have your family backing you in anything you do, and especially a professional motor racing career.
Definitely. This is gonna be a good one. Out of the teams you rode for, which was your favourite?
Oh, that's a tricky question. Look, I was very fortunate to ride for some brilliant teams, and like some really well-known teams, teams that I'd watched for a long time. Obviously, I spent probably the most time at Birmingham and captained them and had the most success there. So that's always been the one that's felt like sort of my team. I felt really part of the family there. But I also had a couple of really good years at Peterborough too, and that's sort of where I really stepped up my racing. Totally different setup, and they're obviously a club with massive history as well. So I'd say Birmingham and Peterborough were sort of my two main clubs. But look, I enjoyed everywhere I rode. Mildenow was a massive start for my career, and then when I moved to Redcar, I had some really good times there as well. So look, I was very fortunate in my clubs. I didn't really have any issues, which can't be said for a lot of riders. So I'm quite lucky.
Yeah, this is true. What has been your favourite moment riding speedway?
I had quite a few good moments. Obviously, winning the league with Birmingham was pretty special when we turned that around. But probably when I won the Golden Hammer was a massive moment for me. To do that with like a 5-ride maximum was really special. You know, it was quite local at Wolverhampton, so my family were there, and I was on a real rise in what I was doing then, and it was a meeting that I was determined to win. So to go out there, and often you can think you're going to have a good night, but it doesn't always happen. So to actually go out there and win it, and to do it the way I did, it's definitely a DVD I've watched since I finished racing, that's for sure. So we'll go for that one.
I've got that DVD as well. I've watched it a fair few times.
Yeah, me too. So there's certainly one that's I don't mind. All my DVDs tend to be better meetings rather than keeping the ones that weren't so good. But yeah, that's definitely one that I like getting out and having a watch now and again.
Definitely. In the last race, the way Danielle was just pushing you, that was a good race to watch. I actually wish I'd gone to watch the meeting in person, but I never got the chance. So
yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm
good to have the DVD.
more relaxed watching that race now than I was in it, knowing that I come out the corner okay. Danny was a rider as well who was progressing massively at the time. Like, obviously, it's so sad what happened with Danny, but at the time we were big rivals. So for it to come down to that last race against him, we knew it was going to be no one was going to give an inch, and they didn't. And luckily, I just managed to squeeze through that gap and ride a pretty good race from there on in.
That's good. I haven't had time to do much prep with getting home and everything tonight, so I haven't got that many questions. So I don't know if we just wanted to have a bit of a conversation about the sport in general in this country and that at the moment. So with the news of Wolverhampton being kicked out of Monmore at the end of the season and Peterborough not having a track, British Speedway is in a pretty dire state at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it has been spoken about in that way, unfortunately, for a little while. I think a real shame is seeing some of the bigger teams go. For me, I think a lot of it is we could avoid quite a bit of it. I think we really need to try and drive fan numbers back up, and the promotional side of things really needs a bit of a shake up. I went to watch at Leicester the other night and drove from where I live in Rugby, so it's about 35-40 minutes, and there wasn't one poster to say Speedway was on tonight. So I think unless you're going to Speedway, you're not really going to know about it. So I think that's a massive part. And then unfortunately now when you lose a track, it's very difficult to sort of reopen stadiums with things like the noise and just a lot of red tape you have to go through now. So look, I don't know what the views are from being a fan or a fan's viewpoint of it all is. But yeah, it's a real shame to see.
I've got to say, I was shocked when I heard the news about Wolves. I tell you what, I was sat eating my breakfast in Wetherspoons on a Monday morning in Nottingham after I'd been to the playoff weekend for the hockey. And I was sat there and I was like, no way, that's not true. And I was telling everybody straight away, I was like, no way. And everybody was just so shocked at the news that's in the massive turnaround that they've had, the petition and everybody backing the campaign. I think it's a good thing. It's just if it comes of anything, really, isn't it now?
Yeah, like a club like Wolverhampton, that's quite scary that can happen. It sounded like the management there didn't really see it coming, and I think they thought they had agreements in place to run for another few years, and then unfortunately fell down at the last hurdle. And it is scary when a team like that can go bust. But I also think that the fact the following week they get such a good crowd and it takes something like that to bring supporters out is a bit of a shame too. And maybe if we could see that support and push for people to go every week instead of it when people need to go, it might be better. I think Speedway is quite reactionary, so like when there's going to be a problem, they really push to promote meetings and promote to get people there. And if we could do that all the time, maybe we'd have less need to do it when things go wrong. So yeah, there's different ways of looking at it, but at the end of the day, it's a massive shame. They're a fantastic club. Obviously, I was lucky enough to sign for them and didn't spend the whole season there down to my own decision, but I also rode for them in other seasons as a guest, and it's a brilliant club, great, massive fan base, different type of track as well in the UK. It had something really unique, and let's hope that they can find a way to keep it going. Definitely.
I think I'm out now. Amy, have you got anything you want to ask Tom?
Yeah. So say if somebody was going to go into the sport, like brand new, wanted to learn the whole sport, how would you recommend them to start, like from the bottom, and where to work their way up?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Amy, because it's a difficult sport to get into. It's not like going to play football and buying a pair of football boots and a ball and going to have a kick about. It's a bit more difficult, and that's why you often see riders come from generations. So like their parents will have ridden, their grandparents will have ridden, because they know the people to get into the sport. But there are some really good ways now. So there's a group called AMSA, so an amateur motorcycle speedway academy, and they run sessions at Leicester and at Scunthorpe where you can pay to go and get coached, and they give you all the kit and the bike, and they're really friendly, and they can teach you all things about looking after bikes, how to ride in a really like fun and safe environment. So I definitely say going along to something like that is the best way. Try and get around people that do it is the best way to learn how to look after bikes. So if you come from motocross, looking after a speedway bike is completely different. So if you finish motocrossing, you can sort of just jet wash your motocross bike down, and you go and practice at speedway, it takes about 6 to 8 hours to go and clean your bike afterwards. So it's a massive change. So it's being around the right people. There's definitely places you can go and have a go now, which is cool.
That's one thing I definitely want to do.
Have a go.
Yeah,
I would recommend any speedway fan to go and have a go. It's totally different to what it looks like. It will feel extremely fast, and you'll watch the video back and you'll be hardly going any speed at all. So it gives a different perspective on it, and it would be great for. It's always great fun though. So definitely worth going to have a go.
My mum's been trying to keep me away from it because I'm rather accident prone.
Yeah,
so
it's probably not the best sport for somebody who's accident prone, but if you're going to have a go at any motorbike racing, you know there's a good chance you're going to get hurt, unfortunately. Something riders have to accept, and if you're okay with that, then go racing, and if not, it's probably not the sport for you.
So that's sort of what and when you made the decision to stop racing, wasn't it? It was your 2 back injuries back to back that and then you said, I think last Friday at the event at Goals, you said it sort of got in your head, didn't it? And it threw your head off. Yeah,
massive. It's such a mental sport. Like, obviously, a speedway race is only a minute long, so you have to be totally committed. And I was saying at that event, for your safety and everybody else's, so you have to be fully committed to what you're doing. And when you haven't had serious injuries, they don't really cross your mind. And then the first ones, for me, I could absolutely get back from and ignore when I went racing the next time. With COVID, it gave me like a year to think about things, and went back, had my first meeting at Wolverhampton on a track that was really wet and spongy, and it got called off after a couple of races. And I think the combination of things made me start to think about things too much. I was getting to the start line and picturing what could go wrong, which is actually quite a lot. So when you start thinking about it, it's probably time to give it a miss, because you're not going to go out there and win races. You have to not even be thinking about the danger, just thinking about how you're going to get the bike to go as quick as possible, and how you're going to win the race.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of crashes in my time as a fan, and none of them have been really that good. You look at riders, they get back up, and it's usually the ones that don't look good that are the worst ones, if that makes sense. But then the ones that look really bad, the rider's up 5 seconds later and they're asking if the bike's okay.
Yeah, that's always the question, Ruth. Even if it's really bad, you want to know if the bike's okay. There's a lot of time and effort and money gone into those bikes, and that's another thing people don't realize. If you have a crash, not only can it affect the body, but your bikes obviously need repairing, and that can be incredibly expensive. Obviously, in speedway, you are paid as self-employed, so you're paid for each point that you score, and when something goes wrong with the bike, that's down for you to pay for. So all of those points that you've scored in the night can then be gone on repairing your bike, and actually then there's not much left to buy your dinner and pay your mortgage. So that's often why riders will say, "How's my bike?" because there's quite a lot of money sat there.
Yeah. I asked another rider a few years back how much it would be to put like a whole bike together, rolling chassis, engine and everything. And this was about 5 years ago. Now they said about $3,000, but with the cost of living and everything, I bet it's a lot more than that right now.
Yeah, for a professional rider riding in like the top 2 leagues, it'd be way more than that. So some figures, probably when I bought a brand new engine, the engine itself was over $5,000 just for the engine. That's before you put anything else on the bike. So Depends on the quality of bike you're building, but you could be looking, 3 times what you just mentioned, and that's for one bike, and you could have 3 bikes. The real cost for speedway riders is keeping that maintained though. So after say 6 meetings, maybe 7, 8 meetings, your engine then has to go off for service. I would ship my engine off to Denmark to get it serviced by Brian Anderson. He would do that in 3 days and fly it back to me, and that would cost me probably around 700 to 800 euros a time, and that's that'd be every 40 heats for me that I'd get my engine done like that. So there's a lot of cost, and then you've got every race meeting you have to put new clutch plates in. So a clutch plate could be, depending on which one, between like £8 and £45 a clutch plate, and you've got you've got multiple clutch plates in your clutch basket, and you're swapping them out. You've then got new oil for a meeting, which is going to be another £10 on oil. You've got new tear offs on your goggles. So you can think all of these things soon add up, and that's without you crashing it. So then when you crash it and you need to go and get it straightened or buy a new back end or new diamond, there's another few £100 spent there. So you could race a night and earn 600-700 quid, and then you've got a bill for 800-900 quid. So you've actually lost money. So it's not an easy way to be making money, especially if you're crashing.
It sounds like it. Oof. And then there's these the Midland and Southern Development League, where they literally just ride for experience and they don't get paid anything. That must get expensive really quick.
Yeah, and it does, but you need to go through that, and like at that level you can't expect to be paid. I never did. That's a choice to try and make it to a professional level. You're not bringing any income into the club as such, whereas when you're a professional, the fans are paying to come and watch you, so that's when you should get paid. But at that level early on, it's just about experience. So I think I did between 30 and 40 races when I started in the MDL after meetings, and it can be a long old process because you can go to meetings and there could be a crash in the main meeting, and then the time curfew's up, so you don't get to ride, or you can have one ride and then the time curfew's up. I travelled to Sheffield to ride, and it would get called off, and then just drive all the way home and go somewhere else the next day. So it's a bit of a slog, but you have to go through it, and it's a hard sport to learn because there's nowhere to just go and have a practice on an evening after school as such. It's not like going down to play five-a-side football or going to have a round of golf or play cricket in the evening. You have to go somewhere where there's a race meeting on. So if you get on, that's good. You've got 3 minutes worth of practice. So again, it's not that much, but you've got some practice, and that's why you have to go as much as you can. And that's why you'll see riders who really want to make it. They'll be riding every night of the week if they can be.
Trying to think. Amy, you got anything else you want to?
Yeah, okay. I've thought about it. I've had time to think about it. Was Speedway the career you wanted to go into initially, or did you have something like in backup?
Yeah, no, good question. I look, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be a Speedway rider, but as I say, my family sort of pushed me down a completely different route, which I'm really thankful for. So I obviously did my A levels and then went to university. So I got a degree in business, and then when I worked in that role, in a sales role for a couple of years whilst riding for Mildenhall, and then for Birmingham, when I just rode for one team, I'd still work all week every day and then just go and race on a Wednesday night at Birmingham, and then when we had away fixtures, maybe use holiday. And then when I turned to ride for Peterborough as well, I just had way too many meetings to work alongside it, and I was at a point where I could hopefully earn enough money to rely on Speedway to a point. That didn't mean I didn't work at all. I did a bit of part-time work and worked all winter, but yeah, I've always had that backup, which I think is so important. So when I did decide to walk away from Speedway, I could go and get a job, whereas if I just done Speedway from when I was 15 years old and that was my only job and I had no qualifications, obviously it's a lot more difficult to ever walk away from the sport, and there's a lot of pressure on some of those young kids who really have only got Speedway, and that's I don't envy being in that position, to be honest.
Doesn't sound like a good position to be in when you eventually decide to pack it in and you're like, well, what am I going to do now then?
Yeah, look, I think that can be the worry, but it can go the other way too. So if you do make it, you do need to be in it from an early age. And I think that's one thing that hampered me, was starting a little bit too late. I think I progressed probably quicker than nearly anybody else that started around my time. But because they were quite a bit younger, they were often given a lot more time, and I felt often more opportunity. Not saying that was the wrong thing because they were younger, but I do think often to make it to the top, you have to start young, but it's a massive sacrifice at the same time. So I look at it two ways. I'm glad I have what I have as backup, but a little bit of me thinks maybe where I could have got to if maybe I did what I did when I was, say, 18, 19, rather than mid-20s.
I was reading the match day program from last night. We won't mention the score because I'm not particularly happy about that. But I was reading the commercial bit today, and I know I spotted your name in the program that you're willing to help out the promotional side at the club, which is, I think it's a brilliant idea because you've got the experience and you've been there and done it, and you'll be able to go into schools and tell the kids about what you've been and where you've, like where you've ridden and stuff. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I haven't seen the program obviously from last night, so I didn't know that was in there, but it's nice to hear. I obviously had a chat with a couple of the guys at the event that they hosted last week, at the supporters event, and it sounds like they've got some really good ideas, which is great. I just think it's getting it out there. And look, I've got kit. I just said if they ever need any support, just let me know and I'll do what I can. I say when I was little at primary school, which is a long time ago now, unfortunately, but I always remember the ice hockey team, Cov Blaze, coming in with their kit and letting us try it on. Yeah, like the jerseys behind you there, and the skates and the helmets, and I never forgot it. Like even to this day now, I remember them coming in. And I think if you can take speedway to the kids and actually show them what it is and get like them to sit on a bike or try on Kevlars, see all that protection that guys are wearing underneath and explain why they have to wear it and what can go wrong, and just really build up that bit of drama around it, I think kids would be hooked. I don't think it's a really hard sport to sell, if I'm honest. I just think there's a few things that could be done a bit better, and if I can help out in any way, then I'm always happy to. So hopefully they take me up on that. And again, we're doing some of the Birmingham live streaming. I've said I'll be happy to help with a bit of commentary on that. So I do like keeping my hand in the sport where I can, just not every day, every hour of every day.
Fair enough. But I don't know if you've been into Birmingham recently and spotted a Brummies advert on the back of a bus.
I've heard about it, and that's the sort of thing that, that we need to get it out there. If people don't see it, like I was saying the other day, if you don't see it, you're not going to go. So something to just get people to go onto the website, have a look, see what dates are. The more we can get that dotted about, even the old school way with flyers, just get it in front of people. And people do still want things to do. And especially if we can get some more youngsters up there and make it a bit more of a night out, so that it's not just about the speedway, but actually the whole event. When you go, you can go to football. I went to Coventry the other day, and the game actually isn't that exciting if you take the 90 minutes, but the whole event is why people go. So that build up the experience to having a drink and being with your friends, and who's going to win and the result side of things. Just a lot of build up, and speedway is quite easy with that. You got 4 guys that are going to go out and risk their lives. It's not the hardest thing to get people to be too excited about, or it shouldn't be. It's not like you're trying to sell darts or snooker, which they've somehow managed to do incredibly well, which is so popular. You've got a sport that's there to be promoted, and you can see how they do it with the Grand Prix. It's brilliant, and just need to bring a bit of that into the league racing if we can. Yeah,
I saw that. I was because I work from home most of the time now, but my mum had Food Network on in the background while we were both at work the other day. This advert for the Speedway Grand Prix comes on. I'm like, hang on, I thought you had Food Network.
Yeah, but that's great, isn't it? Because there'll be people that just don't know about speedway that will see that and then say, what's that? That looks great. And again, like with the wider biking community, so you got your motocross events or superbike and people that are already into motorsports, that if you talk to them, they go, oh God, I didn't know speedway was still going. And we can't have it at that point. People absolutely need to know speedway's happening before they're even going to go. So we can't rely on the same people turning up week in, week out. They have to start to think about, you know, modernizing it. Keep talking about the ice hockey, but I think they do it really well. So if I go to the ice hockey, I'll get an email every Sunday telling me to get tickets for. They've got all my data. I don't know how many speedway teams are collecting people's email addresses and emailing them regularly, but it's just small things like that are quite easy to do, but really effective.
Well, I've always said, put out a newsletter. Like you mentioned, the ice hockey, you get an email every Sunday. But just put out a newsletter with a news round of the stuff that's happened for the team during the week. And then you can collect people's email addresses, like you say, and you know, it'll just get the word out.
There's loads of ways to get people's email addresses. You know, like on the night of a meeting, you can have stuff going on in the bar where people have to enter their email address, but then you can contact them regularly. Like even if it's every Sunday, just saying when the meetings are that week, or have you got your ticket, or you know. This week, I think James Wright was back in the team. James Wright's back in the team. Make sure you get down there Wednesday, buy your ticket here. So then once people have bought it online, they're a lot more likely to then actually have to go rather than just deciding last minute, shall I go to Speedway or not? So yeah, there's loads that can be done. And it's great. It was really refreshing to hear that Birmingham are trying all of these things to try and get more people in. So hopefully it will be a success for them.
I've heard some bits and I've heard other bits, but unfortunately I've been sworn to secrecy by Nigel Tolley at the moment, so I can't say much. But yeah, from what I have heard, it sounds positive, like you say.
Yeah, let's hope so. And what do you think to the team then, or the team's chances this year, or we're going to see a bit of improvement soon?
Got yet another injury. Stefan Nilsson's broke his foot.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
There was flashes of positivity last night, but there wasn't many. There's like I'm just looking at the program now. In Heat 7, when Justin Sedgman and Nick Morris went out and got that 5-1, that got the crowd going a bit, but then they just went straight back to being like not great again after, and it's like. And then there was Heat 10 where Nick Morris's bike went, and so did Alfie Botel's in the end. So we were on a 5-1, but it ended up being an Edinburgh 5-1 after, because both the boys' bikes went. And you think, well, this is a bit disappointing, because I must admit I did leave Perry Bar last night a bit disappointed, thinking we're not going to have another season like this again, are we?
Yeah, you need a bit of luck in Speedway, that's for sure, and a bit of confidence too. I thought after they won at Plymouth, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that would sort of kickstart them to sort of get a few more victories, but hopefully it will come. I haven't been up to watch any meetings at Perry Bar, so I'm going to try and get up to a few as well this year. And I don't know what the racing's been like. I don't know if it's been good racing up there or what the track's like.
The racing's been all right, to be honest. The track's quite a bit slick at the minute. They're working on putting some more dirt on it to make it more of a racetrack, but they're tyre packing the track every week at the moment, so it's really quite slick. Okay.
No, it's not always a bad thing. It gets meetings on, and the way the bikes are now, I think the tracks do need to be a bit slicker, but then maybe they just need a bit more dirt around the outside and see some good racing. I don't know what you think as a fan. What's more important, seeing a Birmingham win or good racing? I'm always intrigued to hear what a fan's view is of that.
Honestly, we haven't won that much in recent seasons, so I'm going to go with a bit of both.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer. A bit of both. Yeah, that's good.
Amy, you got an opinion on this?
Yeah, I think they just need to get into that mentality, because as you've said, Speedway is really tough. So like, if they just need to get into that mentality, have like a little team meeting before they start, or after that race, they could be like, oh, we could have done this better or done that better, because I know how difficult it is. And being a fan, watching it as well, like I've been a fan since like 2007, so watching it with my dad, like seeing my dad watch it as well, I think they just need to get into that mentality, because when they win, it's a win for us as well as them. So yeah, just getting into that mentality and having that little team meeting before, like a little pep talk, just to get them, we can do this, we can do it this way. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think look, big part of speedway, I know it's very individual, but it's still team and like geeing each other up, especially when it's not going well. If you can have some boys in there supporting you and getting you G'd up for the race, then it definitely helps. But what I do know, Lawrence Rogers will be getting them as G'd up as he possibly can and giving them a little pep talk before, I'm sure. And speedway riders, look, they want to win. They're paid for winning, so it's never just a case of not often is it a case of just turning up to get paid. You're paid on how well you do, so they'll certainly be trying for themselves as well as the fans, I think.
Yeah, it's I've just got to touch on it. Alfie Botel has been one of the best signings we've ever made so far, because he started off a bit slow, but he's got better and better every meeting, and you can see it, and it's just good to see him doing so well. I just wish everybody else would follow and get better every meeting as well.
Yeah, no, it's great. Alfie started about the same time as me, and he's had some ups and downs, and he does seem to be really kicking on this season, which is good to see. Got some good kit, I think, and he looks like he's got that confidence, or what I've seen from his scores, and that's a big thing too. When you can start turning up at a meeting and you believe you're going to win, like there's a real good chance that you'll get to that first turn first. And if you're turning up and you're not so confident, it's a much bigger ask. So Alfie's obviously riding that wave at the minute, and hopefully if he can keep doing that, some of the other boys will start to pick up as well, and then you'll be in a much better position.
Hopefully so. I hope that happens. But yeah, I'm pretty much out of questions. Like I said before, I didn't have much time to prep tonight. So apologies for that. I did try to swap my day in the office this week, but it wasn't happening. So apologies for not having many questions. Amy, have you got anything else you want to ask Tom?
I can't think of anything now.
We've been going for about half an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to just have a chat about, Tom?
No, it's just interesting to get your thoughts on Birmingham and speedway in general. So I'm a bit removed from it all now. It used to be like my every minute of every day when you're doing it. So when I stopped, I had to move away a little bit, so I didn't get drawn back into having another go. You sort of have to leave it. So I'm a bit removed from everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's fair enough. If I'm being honest, I'm coming back into it a bit slow myself this year, because I was watching the Coventry Blaze literally all winter, and the season finally ended, I think, a couple of weeks back, because GB hosted their group of the World Championships this year. So it literally finished, I think it was the 6th of May this season finally finished. And so I've had a bit of a trouble adjusting back to going to speedway every week rather than ice hockey every week now. I'm a bit slow off the bat myself.
What do you prefer going to, then, the speedway or the ice hockey?
I'm going to be honest here and say it's the ice hockey at the minute. Just because the Blaze did so well last season. They finished 5th overall in the league. But they didn't do so well in the playoffs. They crashed out of the playoffs to Cardiff.
Well, there you go. So winning's important still, then, not just in a good match or a good race. You still want them to win.
Yeah. It's also the atmosphere at hockey. I find I go to Perry Bar and there's literally no atmosphere. But the minute I walk into the Sky Dome, there's chanting going on, there's music, there's chatting between the fans and everybody's anticipating the game and stuff. I don't hear that at Perry Bar anymore. I don't know if it's the crowds, because the crowds are so thin at the moment. Hopefully that gets better, but there's no atmosphere. What do you think brings the atmosphere at the ice hockey, though? Is it the things that they do? So they're getting the players involved. They're there's always something happening, isn't there, when you go to the ice hockey? Like the build up, they've got the program sellers going around, they've got the chuck a puck games, they've got stuff happening all the time, haven't they? Do you think maybe that's missing from a night at speedway? So it's maybe just focused a bit too much on
15 races rather than other things happening, because there's quite big breaks at ice hockey too, isn't there? So like in between each period.
Yeah. Well, in the periods, there's always chance for the different players as well. So there's always a chant going around the rink, which I thought if we bring that into speedway and there's chance for the different riders on a team, it might make things a bit more interesting.
Yeah. Also, more details on the riders. So you go into the ice hockey and they give you like a player card or the stuff telling you about the players, isn't there? And you can get quite close to the players still when they come off the ice and stuff. And I think that's something in speedway, you know, I much prefer speedway tracks where you can really get close to the pits and look into the pits and see what the riders are doing. And I think maybe like when you come into a speedway stadium, there should be more on the riders, whether that's, I don't know, a bike for you to sit on or a cardboard cut out of the rider to see actually how big they are, or, you know, some information on their weight, their height, and, you know, just a bit more. There's a lot that goes on for a speedway rider's life, you know, to stay like really light. And, you know, someone might come and watch the football and have, or the speedway, sorry, and have a beer and a pie, and then look and see, oh, a speedway rider's only weighing 60 kilos or something. And it's just adding that bit of interest into what's, you know, what's going on in that a rider's day-to-day life. I think we could make it a bit more interesting. So that's why I asked about the ice hockey, because I think they do it pretty well.
I've got to agree there, definitely. Yeah, but it like you say, it's fan engagement as well. So like when I wanted to learn about the speedway bikes, I had to go out and do it myself. Like I had to go and look it up and learn all about the crankshaft and the engine and the actual bike myself. I had to do it outside of speedway. So if there was a bike in the, say, the main bar at Perry Bar, and there was like a list of all the bits and they were all like labelled and stuff, you know, it would get the fans more interested in like how the bike actually works.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea actually, to have a bike with it all labelled up, whatever if it is, and you know, just a bit of facts on how quick it can accelerate and what all the different things are. So there's a lot going on in a speedway meeting, and I think that's why people who are been speedway riders or mechanics or close to it can just watch speedway when the racing isn't that good, or just watch practice, because they understand what's happening on the bike, and like if they're making a change to their setup, what difference that's going to make to the bike, and it becomes a different element to it and really interesting. So if you can start to understand that a rider's made a certain change to his bike and actually he really struggles in the next ride, you might understand a bit more about why that is. So the bike might be pulling him too hard into the corner, or he might have made a change and the bike's spinning too much in the corner. So whatever he does, he just can't get it to go fast enough. So it's a totally different element, and I think it's one that probably the fans don't see enough of.
Definitely, because a lot track conditions and bike setup go hand in hand, don't they? Because like when the track is slick, the rider will go, well, I need to do this I need this sprocket, I need that, and you know, I might want to tighten the clutch more, and you know, bits and pieces like that. But you don't get to see that. And I took a newbie a couple of times over the past couple of seasons, and she keeps asking me questions. I try my hardest to answer them, but even I don't know the answers to everything, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I'll go, well, the track's quite slick tonight, so they'll make changes to the bike so it'll react better to the track. And she's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that sounds exciting and stuff like that. I tried to explain it, but I'm not very good at explaining stuff, I must admit.
No, it's not easy unless you really know as well. And, you know, unless you've been in it, it's hard to know what they might be doing or what they are actually changing on their bike. The thing with a speedway bike is there's not lots and lots of things to change. So there's certain things you'll change. So it could be your ignition timing, your sprocket, how long you've got the bike or how short you've got the bike, your tire pressure. And then you're pretty much about there on what you can change in a meeting. So it's not lots, but it's getting all of those bits to work together. So you could get one bit right and something totally wrong, and you're not going to be quick enough. And when you can get all of those things spot on, that's when you see riders, especially in that Grand Prix at that top level where they're all so good, saying, I just couldn't find the setup, or I found the setup. And that's because they've got all of those bits of the jigsaw absolutely spot on, and the bike is just working so well for them. And it doesn't mean the bike's just going the fastest, because it could be almost like pulling their arms off, so it could be too hard to ride. And it's just finding that balance where they've got enough control of the bike, but it is quick and it's not spinning up, it's not pulling them where they don't want to go, and all of that is from getting that set up right. But a lot goes into that, you know, if you've been to tracks before. So that's why you'll see riders come into a team who haven't ridden at tracks before. If they come over from a different country, they'll say, oh, it's the first time I've been at that track. And you might think, well, it's just an oval, how hard can it be? You ride speedway all the time. But they're trying to find that setup on their bike that's comfortable, let alone knowing when to turn going into the corner and how hard to turn and when to get their wheels back in line. So for such a simple sport, there's so much that goes into it.
There is, definitely. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover, to be honest.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey everyone, thanks for watching that episode of Drop the Clutch. It was a good episode to have Tom on to just have a bit of a discussion about the sport and how he got into the sport. Unfortunately, the original outro we recorded got corrupted, so I've had to record this new one. So this is me on Sunday night, just as I'm editing. But yeah, catch you on the next one, and thanks for the support so far, everybody. Catch you later.